And then there's this morning. UNICEF is saying that 1 million Afghan children could starve unless something is done. Most Western nations freezing their aid to Afghanistan when the Taliban took over in mid-August. Now, lots of Afghan women and children were depending on that aid just to survive. BNC's chief foreign affairs correspondent Nayyera Haq joins us. And Nayyera, we saw that contentious hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday, contentious again today. Fingers are being pointed about who is to blame for the pullout, but I didn't hear a single member of Congress talk about feeding the Afghan children and the women.
Indeed, Del, because these hearings from yesterday and today are really turning into a question of accountability. And Congress, let's be clear, had effectively authorized the $3 trillion the military spent over the last 20 years. That came out to $300 million a day. And Congress received several briefings from generals who did say that the war was being won and things were going well. So Congress is also looking to escape some of its accountability for not really ever having paid attention to the war while it was going on or questioned some of the information that it was getting that was clearly evident and disputable from anybody who was looking at what was going on inside the country. And what's going on inside the country now is that the Taliban have taken over. They are the de facto government, though no one has quite recognized them officially. Everyone knows they're running the country. But they also inherited a war-torn country in which now the 40 million people, according to UNICEF, are likely to starve by the end of this month because food supplies have been broken up. People fled their farms, moved to the cities as internally displaced refugees. So the economy is barely existent. Markets are closed. The only people really benefiting right now are the Taliban themselves, who are able now to sell basic goods like milk and meat on the market for triple the price that it used to be just a month ago. So it is absolutely a humanitarian crisis. But the Taliban itself does not have any money. As you mentioned, the IMF, the World Bank have all frozen the Afghan government assets. So the discussion right now is, how does the United States, how does the global community work with what exists right now, which is Taliban control, to create a humanitarian corridor to make sure that as a result of the U.S. drawdown, the people of Afghanistan are not left to starve.
And Afghans with money pulled it out when the Taliban moved in. But there's also this question. It's like giving money to the mob. Will the new Taliban even allow international aid groups like UNICEF to freely work in this new Afghanistan?
The Taliban will likely do what they did with the United States, which is figure out a process of grift and corruption. For example, a big infrastructure project was a ring called the Ring Road. It was to connect Kabul to other provinces and more rural communities. In order for the U.S. military contractors to build that, they paid private security to protect the construction workers. That private security paid off the Taliban not to bomb the road. That's how things were going down for the last 20 years. The question will be if the Taliban think that they need to allow the humanitarian aid to go through simply so they can get the credibility on the world stage and get that recognition that they want as a legitimate government. But guaranteed, the Taliban are going to try to benefit from the fact that now the international community wants to help the starving Afghan population.
Nayyera, we propped them up. We basically put paychecks in their pockets in the form of international aid. The economy was supported by that. So how can the Taliban rebuild without that international aid? And is this a Hobson's choice in which we would be sending money to the people who are now flying their flag and saying they defeated us? From an African-American standpoint, I can hear people right now saying that money would be better spent here.
Context, humanitarian aid, food programming, anything that goes to development, women's support, all of that, the great peace stuff that the United States does is less than 1% of the federal budget. So if you look at a dollar, that's less than a penny. The military work, The contractors, that whole complex, is 25 cents on the dollar. So that is a far more significant share of our economy, is how the United States has a military-industrial complex. So any money that were to go to the United States support for the UN food program, the United States support to direct programs in Afghanistan, would be coming out of that, less than 1% of the federal budget. With that said, there are ways to make sure that food and money goes to the people directly. And that's part of the negotiation that the UN and other aid groups do, which is we will help your people, but we will help them directly. We're not going to funnel this money through any government structure. The Taliban is keenly aware they don't have money right now. So this is going to be their calculus once again. Do they want to present themselves as more reasonable on the world stage, as not brutal and draconian? In order to do that, then yes, they will have to allow organizations like the United Nations to come in with humanitarian aid, independent of any grift or corruption.
Yeah, good luck with that. BNC's Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Nayyera Haq, thanks for being with us.